Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Real Life Show. We were going to be in the Backyard Cafe, but we're not, as you can see. But we are in the wonderful home of our guest today, Alannah Roberts.
Yay! Hello guys, you're all right?
Welcome, Alannah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, I've had to clean today. It doesn't normally look like this. It's a proper home.
It's a lovely home.
Really nice, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having
I can
us.
tell lots goes on here.
Oh yeah.
Fun.
Lots of fun. If you want fun, come to my
House party.
yeah. Laid back vibes. That's what we give.
For our listeners then, Lauren, tell them a little bit about yourself,
Okay.
maybe what you do, but maybe where they might know you from inside church as well.
Okay, so yeah, I've already introduced my name, but so I'm a Christian, have been since I was 14 years old. I started going to Junction 10 Church, and then I went to uni, and then when I came back, I started going to Calvary, which is now the lovely Arise, which is where most people would know me from.
Yeah.
Three things about me I'm going to give you.
Ooh.
Right, you ready?
Love this.
So I absolutely love Disney. Because it is the best.
Yeah.
My favourite food is a Sunday dinner.
Oh.
And I have a child called Faith.
Oh.
There you go. 3 facts
Yes,
about
Three
me.
facts. What's your favourite part
Oh, I
of
was just going to... Oh, no,
What
go
are you
on.
gonna ask?
You
what's
go.
your favourite part of a Sunday dinner?
Oh.
All of it. Like, watch me.
So you have a favourite
Go,
like
yeah, go
thing.
on.
Right,
Favourite
I am a
bit.
person that these weird people out there, right? Now,
Weird.
if you are one of these people, it's not okay. That just eat bit by bit.
Oh,
like they'll
no.
start with their
Okay.
potatoes and then
Just
move on
change
to
my next question.
Right, no, because you've got to have a little bit of everything. Like my
Okay.
favourite bit is probably the roast potatoes, but they've got to be
Of course.
right, bang
Yeah.
on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Come on.
Okay, so
I was going to ask, can I jump in?
is it a Sunday dinner question?
No.
Why is it
Can I
always
stay on
food
Sunday-
related?
Can I stay on Sunday dinner
Okay.
a sec?
Yeah,
Sunday
yeah,
dinner.
yeah.
So I was going to ask because I don't think you go from one bit to one bit, but I do think like there's a way around your plate.
Like
Oh.
what?
So
What are
I
you
will
talking?
I will go meat and stuffing and meat and potatoes to begin with.
What, and then have the veg
No,
separately?
so then to hold fire on. then I'll head to the veg for a bit, and I'll pop a little bit of like the bits in and stuff, and I'll be around it, and then at the end my plate is just full of absolute mess and like little bits, and I'll put it all together on the fork.
No, see, I'm an LQ at heart and we love food. We're passionate about food, right? And you have to have a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Like you have to try and
Yeah.
squeeze it on that fork. So a bit of Yorkie, bit of meat, bit of potato, bit of veg. Like you can't be leaving anyone out.
Favourite Sunday meat?
Oh. See, I try. I'm going to lamb, but, right, it's
Oh,
weird
no,
because
no
I
lamb.
actually gave up eating lamb for
Oh.
years because when I went to a farm and my dad was like, oh, let's go and feed the lambs. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's lovely. And then I was feeding this lamb and my dad said, oh, it'll be on your plate tomorrow. Cried my eyes out. I was about 6. And I stopped eating meat.
At 6.
He said at 6, so I stopped eating, not meat, but I stopped eating lamb because I was like, no, it's babies, it's not okay. And then I didn't start eating lamb again until I went for a Sunday dinner at my now husband's mum and dad's, and she'd cooked a lamb dinner, and my mum and dad always taught me never to be rude, just eat what you're given.
Yeah,
And I'm
okay.
pretty sure I cried while eating it, but I cried also because it tastes so good. So, yeah. Sorry, that was a
Your
really long
question,
way.
sorry.
I was going to ask, what's your favourite Disney film?
Oh, why are you going to play me like that? It depends what we're talking. So,
Just favourite of
old
all
school
time.
or new school?
All time.
Okay, let's go old school.
Old school Lion King.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
still can't get over Mufasa's death.
Yeah.
R.I.P. R.I.P.
New school?
Newest one. Do you know what? He's still. Is Tangled classed as a new one? Newer voice.
I'd say so.
Newest one is Encanto. Obvs.
Oh, don't click with
But anyone who
Encanto.
hasn't seen Wish, drop that.
Oh
It's
my gosh,
awesome.
that is so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, awesome. film.
Amazing.
What's your favourite Disney film?
Fox and the Hound.
By far. man, I've
Oh, that's like of all time.
Of all time.
What about the newer ones?
Yeah,
The newer ones.
Newer ones. Wish is
Wish
pretty
is
good.
amazing.
The
yeah.
sound. It's the soundtrack for me.
Yeah. Oh, mate, me and Faith in the car.
Yeah, in the car.
Yeah,
It's amazing. What about you, Josh? Favourite Disney?
I'm gonna say either The Incredibles or Monsters Inc.
Monsters Inc. is a good one.
But like, I can't believe not been mentioned yet. I think Inside Out. Is
okay.
is a top
And
tier
just
film.
so you know, number 2 is dropping soon.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yes,
Working
it
with
is.
teenagers, that's really going to help me because it's about being a teenager.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that is going to help.
So I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to number 2. But I think Inside Out, when the elephant doesn't quite matter and sacrifices himself.
You cry. Oh my gosh.
Bing Bong. His name's
I
Bing Bong.
cannot watch that film without
Bing Bong,
crying.
yeah,
What's his name? Bing Bong.
Bing Bong.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Let's have 2 seconds of silence for Bing Bong.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
And there's
Thanks,
Up
Bing
as
Bong,
well.
yeah.
Up.
Oh, don't. Why are we bringing the vibes down?
No, I don't know. Right.
You said just before we recorded this
Right,
might
this
get
is-
emotional.
This is going to
That's
get emotional.
early.
I didn't realise it was beforehand what we were talking about.
Oh
Right,
brilliant,
let's get
brilliant.
to it. Lana, we always start here and we want to know, when did you come to know Jesus?
So I came to actually give my life to Jesus when I was 14 years old.
Ah, okay.
And I'm gonna, when we go into conversation, that's actually really important for like later on in my story. But yeah, 14 when I actually gave my life to God.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
But you had exposure to church
Yeah.
and God before then. Like
So-
what did that look like?
So that looked like my mum making me wear a dress and go to Sunday. every Sunday with a matching hairband. I hated it.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did you all dress up nice?
Yeah. Oh, you had to be in
Oh, I
Sunday
love
best
that.
for church, yeah. And I was
Love
always
it.
in like
You
a
didn't have
little
this experience,
dress.
did you?
I'd never had this experience.
No, you had to. I mean, you needed to be on point. If you weren't
Did
on
you?
point, wow. Like, what are you wearing? Like, I couldn't wear trousers. Are you joking? Put a dress on. Put that matching headband on. I mean, I had some tantrums when I was younger about what I was wearing. But, yeah, so every night, it was a real family. Sundays were like, we get up, we used to go to the church at Junction 10 when I was a kid. But my mum and dad actually went to Eve Lane with my brother and sister.
Everyone's been to Eve Lane.
Yeah, everyone's been and moved. They started as part of the first people to start Junction 10.
Oh, your mum and dad
Yeah,
did?
my mum and dad
At
did.
Eve Lane?
So they went from Eve Lane with Pastor John to Junction 10.
Oh, wow.
So I only experienced Junction 10. But yeah, so I grew up going to Sunday school every Sunday. Absolutely loved it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Loved going. I was a bit naughty. I used to climb under the chairs and go to the front. We'd be sitting at the back and you'd see me pop up at the front and my mum would be like, where is she? Andy, she's at the front.
I'd love to have seen you as a kid.
I loved it. I'd be like, I'm going to get there. They don't even know I'm gone. It's great. But I loved being in Sunday school. I did love going to church. We'd always pick up my nan. And like, she used to sing a lot at Junction 10, so I'd love hearing her sing. So I just loved being in church, but I didn't actually like, I knew the Bible, I knew stories, I loved going there, but I didn't actually feel like my true, like I don't know, it's a feeling, isn't it? You get when like you just experience the power of God, and I didn't get that until I was about 14, and then I was like, oh wow, so this stuff we've been talking about is real.
Wow,
This is amazing.
Were you at Junction 10 still at 14?
Yeah.
So you gave your life to Jesus at Junction 10?
Yeah, and I got baptised not long after. There's loads of us that got baptised, and you all had to wear white.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, like a gown?
Yeah.
Or just like
no,
white clothes?
not a gown. You just had to wear white. I just remember
wow.
thinking, I'm just not the kind of person to be wearing white. But I was like, yeah. So we were all in, white. And then my dad and Pastor John baptised me.
Oh,
so that was quite
that's
special.
precious.
And I had like a real one-to-one with God on that day.
Wow.
And it was really emotional and just like, but beautiful.
Yeah.
In the same respect, it was really, really beautiful. I couldn't even
Wow.
read. I was so emotional. I couldn't even read. You know the part where you read a little bit about your journey. I had to get somebody else to like read it. Like I got halfway through, and then I was like,
Wow.
So I grew up in church. I had some time away as well where I've never denied, like I always knew God. As soon as I gave my life to God, I knew he was there. I knew he would be with me all the way. But I probably had some time away from church, like while I was at uni and stuff. But I never, I always knew he was there. But he was like, hello,
no way.
Come back.
Why do you think you had that time away from church? What were the factors in that?
I went to university and I lived at uni and so I couldn't go to church like every week. If I went back home, I could, but by that point, I was no longer at Junction 10. And then I tried to get into a church in Worcester where I was, but I just didn't. I felt a little bit alone and a bit like, there was lots of people who knew each other, and I could have embedded myself in it, but I was a little bit nervous. And coming from a church where I knew a lot of people, and it was quite daunting. So I think that had a lot to do with it. And just if you're not having that weekly, I'm not saying you have to go to church every week, but actually it really helps with your journey and just where you are and helping you to do different things throughout the week. It's just so good when you come together as a community. So I think the more I was out of it, the less I felt I needed to go. So I just had that time away. But
wow.
What's while I was at uni, not the whole of uni. When I moved back home, I actually I think it was my last year of uni, when I came back to home, I was like, I don't know where to go now, because we're quite far away from Junction 10, and that's when I started going to Calvary. Yeah.
So where were your mum and dad at this point?
So my mum and dad, I believe, were still at Junction 10, so was my brother.
Okay.
And I just felt like I needed to be somewhere closer, because I knew that I probably wouldn't go that far to get to church. And at that point, Junction 10 had kind of, the building wasn't there anymore, and they'd gone into like a different area. I don't know whether they were in the school at that point, but it was all a bit dispersed. So I was like, I don't know, and I didn't feel God pushing me towards there, but I did feel him push me towards Calvary, and I knew a couple of people at Calvary, so I was like, oh, let's go and see. So
Wow.
And it quickly became my home. So good.
Wow. I think there's so much we can get into already, Lon, but we wanted to get you on the Real Life Show for a very purposeful reason, really. So we didn't want to be there too long, because we want to delve right into some stories that we wanted you to give you the space to share, and give you the space to share about 2 testimonies in your life of healing. So would you just unpack for us the testimony of your life of healing in your life for us?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack, so I won't go into all of it. God has really blessed me throughout my whole life. So I will start at the point where I said I became a Christian at 14. That's when I actually gave my life to God. It was only 6 months later that I got diagnosed with cancer. So actually, me becoming a Christian was really integral to my journey. When I first got ill, so I was 15. I was heading towards my GCSEs, and I'd lost a lot of weight. I had no energy, and basically no one knew what was wrong with me. Teachers picked it up and was like, "There's something not quite right." I couldn't walk from one end of the school to the other without actually sitting down and physically getting my energy back. And it took about 6 months for my mum and dad to actually see someone. And by that point, I was really poorly. I didn't fit any of my clothes. I remember having to borrow my sister's clothes, and she was tiny, and I wasn't tiny. But the girl I still saw was this big girl, but I was in size 8 trousers and having to really pull them in. All the clothes I was wearing are around back in fashion now. So I got my combats on and things like that. And but I was really blessed that actually throughout the whole experience I never felt that God wasn't looking after me.
Wow.
Because people were praying for me. I had like messages and all sorts. I mean, we're going back in the day where the 3310 had just come out.
Big up.
So it was messages from actual people. And there wasn't like a social media that you could respond to, but it was like I'd got Calvary, I'd got Junction 10, I'd got Eve Lane, I'd got the Methodist Church in Upper Gorn all praying for me, and all these people who didn't know me were just like praying over me, and I just really felt it. I really, really felt it, and I got quick really fast. Like, I think after my first dose of chemo, I rang my nan. I was like, "You're all right, Nan?" And she's like, "How are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good. And like literally just soared from there, and just felt like healed straight away.
Wow.
And then about 5 years down the line, it always seems to be in education. So it was my GCSEs, and then I got it came back when I was 17/18.
So let's timeline this currently then. So give your life to Jesus at 14.
Yeah.
6 months later, diagnosed with cancer. You have first chemo and you feel great.
Yeah.
Pretty much remission.
Yeah. I went into remission really fast, actually.
Yeah.
So no operation?
No, so I didn't. The only thing I had was chemotherapy, and I think I had quite low dose chemotherapy. So it's like, say it's 1 to 10. Yeah. I had probably had 2. Dose 2 chemotherapy. And I am going back a bit of time, so just they all kind of go into one.
Yeah.
But I think I had 8 lots of chemotherapy. And then that's all I needed for it to go into remission.
Wow.
What
type of cancer was it? Sorry,
So I had Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay.
Which is to do with your lymph glands. It's also like within like a blood cancer.
Yeah.
Kind of area. But it's like, I remember being told that it was as a 14-year-old girl, this like had a lot of impact on me. They were like, "Oh yeah, normally teenage boys get this disease." I was like, "Oh, fantastic!" I was like, "Great," but being told that it was the best kind of. So there's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and there's Hodgkin's, and it was the better form of it. So which was a blessing in itself. But so
at 14 then. Obviously, a lot of us now and are directly involved or directly connected to somebody who probably is going through cancer.
Yeah.
I can talk for us. That's our experience. But a lot of us won't know what it is like to sit in the chemo chair, to sit in those moments where, like, you are, because that the C word, and everyone's worried about that term, and like what. So at 14, you give your life to Jesus. Before you're even 15, you're sat having chemo, and like you said about the timeliness of saying yes to Jesus and how important that was. On the 8 occasions that you did have chemo, how important was it? Like, did you have worship music on? Did you spend time with Jesus in those moments? Could you see Jesus in those moments? And if you could, like, how?
Loads of ways. So I always think, and this is, the more I think about it now, the more I think, oh yeah, that situation was actually where God was.
Yeah.
So although I was poorly, you've got to remember I was with other people who were worse, and they were poorlier. And I remember having so I had my Bible.
Yeah.
And like I'd read verses from my Bible. As I say, people sent me cards with Bible verses, messages. And I prayed. And don't get me wrong, there were good days and bad days. There were some days I was so poorly, and I probably cried out, God, please help me. Yeah. And although I knew He was there, it's just some days that are worse than others for people. Yeah. But there was, God used me. That's all I can say, is while I was going through this time, which actually sounds, I didn't feel as overwhelmed by it. Like I missed a lot of things, but I didn't feel like, I'm really sad I'm missing that, because I had such beautiful people around me. Yeah. I had like a Christian family. I had just lovely nurses and staff members that really looked after me. But so I feel God used me in the situations where, you are real, but actually, at the time, I remember going into the children's. I wasn't normally allowed in the children's ward because I was on the Georgina unit in Russell's Hall, which is where you have like your chemo, and that's the cancer kind of area. But I remember I had to go into the children's ward for something. I had to be isolated in a room. The only room was in the children's ward, and I was feeling a little bit better. And I went on a walk around to talk to some of the other kids, and I met an absolutely amazing little girl, and I was talking to her, and the nurses came over and said, "Oh, she might not talk to you." And I was like, "Oh, it's cool." And I'd got, I think I got some Barbies. I'm a bit old for Barbies, but I got some Barbies, and I was like, "Oh, should we play?" And she couldn't move. She was actually paralysed from, I think, the neck down. And I learnt that she'd been in a car accident and lost her mum and her brother. And her dad was in hospital as well, and he just got a broken leg, bless him. So it was like, I just thought, wow, this is such a crazy situation to be in. That, God bless her, she's paralysed. She's lost two really important people in her life, and then she's got a dad. And I remember her dad coming in while I was talking to her, and it was very emotional. And I just remember like saying, asking them, do you believe in God? And we started talking about a mum and brother being in heaven, and like I just remember praying in the situation, and the dad was like, "Okay," and I know he was like, "I don't know how I feel about this," but me and that little girl, she was actually a lot younger than me, but I actually felt I was meant to go over and talk to that little girl, and I just believe that, as hard as some situations are, I believe God uses you in those moments. Yeah. So, and that, I try not to get emotional. I already said that I get really emotional.
You can.
So I do believe that there's different points in which God used me, and used the fact that, I knew him and I could use that with other people, even though I was going through a time which was sometimes not great. And but
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The power of the church as well.
I
like
know.
not just one church, is it? Like you had loads of people from lots of different churches.
And I felt it. Like I never at the point when I was younger, I never felt like at any point that I wasn't going to be okay. I was like, God's looking after me. Like
wow.
I was like, no, guys, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say with confidence that's how I felt.
Wow.
Where did that come from, do you think? Did you have a word from God? Like, or you just didn't even come into your head that you weren't going to be okay?
I just felt it. I can't even... the first time, it was more a presence. I can't say that I had a particular word from God, but it was more a presence from God, and just felt him around me, and never felt like... And what I will say is I did have... someone bought me a little foot, like a little foot badge, and on it was the poem Footprints in the Sand.
Yeah.
And I remember reading it, and that's something that really resonated with me, and actually kept coming to fruition throughout every time I've had cancer. And it is just that feeling of whenever I was having a bad day, I'd just think about that poem. And it's the bit where, the man turns around and says, "God, I noticed that, you said you'd walk with me every time through everything. You'd walk with me, but I noticed through the hardest times of my life, there's only one set of footprints." And I just love it where he goes, "Mate," I mean, this is not what he actually says, but this is what he's like.
Yeah,
those are the times I carried you.
Yeah.
You can't see the second footprints because I'm carrying you. And I do believe that is what happens, because as much as you might be in a situation where you think, I don't know, I'm going to get through this, God will carry you through it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's so powerful, on. Yeah. So the second time, how old were you then?
So I was 17 when I got re-diagnosed. So my cancer had come back at that point, and had moved to a different area. So going from stage 1, it went to stage 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in more areas of my body.
Yeah.
And that's where it was like, right, so we need to look at something else. So the chemo got a little bit more intense, and I had I had my own stem cells back. So I had a transplant, but they were my own stem cells. So, yeah, it's like really complicated. It's amazing because
it is amazing.
Had I have got like the different stages of cancer that I've had, and this is where I'm like, God is totally looking after me, is the treatment that I had the third time I had cancer did not exist the first time I had cancer. It just didn't exist.
Oh, right.
So had I have had the stage that I had the last time,
oh gosh, that treatment wasn't available.
I wouldn't have got better. So,
wow.
And I do think, when they say, well, how do you know God gives people what they need. Yeah. So he provides those medical professionals with that knowledge. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's amazing medical professionals, but I just think that the power behind it is God.
Yeah.
Ultimately. But sorry, I've gone off topic.
Okay.
This is what I do. But yeah, so the second time I was only 17, so my treatment just got a little bit more intense. That's when the first time I lost most of my hair, but as a 17-year-old girl, losing all of your hair was massive.
Yeah.
Right? And I was just like, I was more bothered about my hair than anything else. And I remember asking people to pray about my eyebrows.
I remember you telling me this.
It's like the most random. People are like, what? But I knew I was going to lose my hair.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, please don't let me lose my eyebrows, because then people will really know how I feel. And I remember just asking people, like my nan, I said, tell your friends to pray for my eyebrows. And I am not joking you, I lost every hair on my head. And this is like God was looking after me. My eyebrows were massive. My eyebrows were huge.
No way.
So
which that is unusual, isn't it?
Oh yeah. If you lose your hair normally, you lose a lot of your hair. Sometimes you don't lose body hair, but you tend to. But you lose eyebrows, just go. And I was like, to the point where I looked like a bit of a joke, because my eyebrows, I've got this bald head and then just these massive eyebrows. But I was like, see, it's God, that is. To the point where I had to pluck them. I was like,
you had to take
yeah,
smoke.
my brother-in-law was just like, mate, they're huge. Yeah. So, and I just think, I know it's a really stupid thing, isn't it? But actually, that's what I asked for prayer for. I mean, I did ask for prayer to be healed, obviously, first and foremost. But I was like, and just on a side note, can you pray? I can get a wig, but they hadn't invented like prosthetic eyebrows at that point. So I was like, give me some eyebrows. Yeah. So he looked after me there, and each time it just got a bit harder.
Yeah.
So, I was then like a young woman.
Yeah. And what was the time span that you were poorly for?
That I was poorly for.
Yeah, like how long?
The whole time. So,
yeah,
oh my
like
gosh,
from 17 until...
So the first time I was diagnosed was I just turned 15.
Yeah.
And the last time I was 21.
Oh, right,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 21. So it was always on big birthdays. So I was ill for my 16th, 18th, 21st. So it spanned over like education and just important like times in my life.
Yeah.
But they were still enjoyable. Like I was really blessed that I still celebrated my 18th birthday.
Yeah.
I went paintballing.
Did you?
Yeah. I went paintballing for my 18th. No, sorry, that was my 21st. Just lied to you. I didn't mean to. I went paintballing for my 21st still, and I went out in Birmingham for my 18th. My sister took me out. Yeah. Wow. So I still had absolutely, like throughout the time I've been ill, and I do find you have to enjoy the bits you can. On the good days, you have to enjoy, and you have to laugh.
Yeah.
Because that is the key. Just laughing and just joking around is, I can't even tell you that being positive, a lot of that is to do with laughter. the people around you, surrounding yourself with positivity, and just yeah. So
I bet you brought so much joy to the other people on the ward. Like, don't you think?
They're probably like, can you shut her up?
Oh man, I bet you were like the life of the ward.
I met some amazing people.
Did you?
Yeah, I've met some amazing people. Yeah. I think the more it went on, because I wasn't allowed, I got showed the children's ward and they were like, this is what you could have. But unfortunately, you're not going to have it. So the second time I got moved to Birmingham, Queen Elizabeth.
Okay, yeah.
So I had to, it's a bit more serious. And the medical intervention that I needed was at Birmingham. So I had to go into isolation on the bone marrow transplant ward.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in my own room. I wasn't allowed out of my room, which I found quite hard at times because you're just in this, literally this room. But I filled it with pictures. I got to take my VHS and DVD combi player in. That's right. Most people won't know what a VHS is. But yeah, I remember taking that on my CD player, and I just made it homely. And I was never alone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a person. I don't deal well with being alone too much. I like it occasionally, but I like to have my loved ones around me. I like to have people around me. And I was really blessed that actually I was never really on my own. The only person that I found annoying was my brother, because he kept eating all my chocolate bars. I even hid them, and he found them. He did.
When he came to see you?
Yeah. I think he stayed one night with me, and I was like, he's not coming back, Mum. He's at all my Mars bars. I hid them, and he found them. Then again, there's like not many places I could have hid them in one room. But yeah, so I've gone off topic. Love you, Dan. Shout out to my bro.
That's nice that he stayed with you.
Yeah, he did. They all did. I mean, me and my sister actually became really close.
Did you?
When I was 17, yeah. So when I was going through the second time, like she's 7 years older than me, and I was just her annoying little sister. But actually going through that, conversations come from that never would have come out of it. And actually we became best friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I absolutely love her. I did love her all the time, but but yeah, so.
You said like you put pictures up and stuff and you made it like your home. Like, were you there for a long time in that room?
Yeah. So I was, so I'm really sorry because I have to remember, because there's different points of which I was in longer, but I was in there for about 2 months.
Wow, that's so long, isn't it?
About 2 months. But what's amazing is, right, and this is like, this is just coming to me as I'm talking. How I knew God was just in it was doctors have repeatedly said to me throughout times of illness, like, this is how long it's going to take you to get better. And I'm like, mate, I've got a force praying for me. I've got people you don't even know. And I remember telling a doctor, he said, your neutrophil levels and all this like medical talk, and telling me they're going to stay this low and they're not going to go back up till this point. I always beat them.
Did you?
Yeah. Like, hands down. Like, I think, no, that was it. So I was due to be in hospital the second time I had cancer. When I was 17, I was due to be in hospital in isolation for 2 months. Mm-hmm. I got out in 6 weeks because of how well I'd done. Wow. And I was like, because I repeatedly go, it's because people are praying for me. Like,
would you say that to the
openly,
professionals?
Openly, and I'd say, and people would repeatedly tell me as well, I had no problem telling people that was because, and some of the medical professionals were like, absolutely, he's looking after you, and you'd see some going, okay, sure. But I was like, there's no other reason. You are telling me that I'm not going to get to this point until this is when I should get to this point. But I know God's going to get me to this point, and he's going to beat that. And and every time I did.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were always like, wow, you're doing really well. It's like, I know, right?
I know, right?
Yeah, but it is because, it got a bit more serious my third time. Yeah. A bit harder to deal with.
And And you were 21 then?
So I was 21 then. And I was tired.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I battled a little bit more with God the third time. And not really battled, just being like, kind of, why?
Yeah.
But God had put so much in my life. He knew I was going to struggle.
Yeah.
And at no point did I ever think, God's not here. I knew he was, and which is sometimes when I get a little bit more angry, because I'd be like, I know you're here. Why are you doing this? And the realisation of God hasn't made me ill.
Yeah.
Like, at no point did God make me ill. God has just used me, and God has protected me through it. And I have people all the time come up to me and go, but don't you think, like, just why would God give you the cancer? And every time I say, God didn't give me cancer. God didn't make me ill. What God did was made sure I got through it. He made sure what I needed was in place to get through it and to be healed. And I will stick to that.
Yeah.
Like, at no point. And what you've got to remember as a Christian is God's fighting for you, but the devil is as well.
Yeah.
And he will try whatever he can to break that bond between you and God.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes don't forget that he's fighting just as much.
Sure.
So for me, I knew that God had got me. I did have a little moment the third time. So I'd actually got with Andy not long before I got ill the third time.
Okay.
And oh my gosh, did God put Andy in my life?
Andy's your husband,
that man,
isn't he?
He was my rock, my
was
absolute
he?
rock. And I think there was something that at that point, as a young woman, I needed my mum, but I needed something else. And he totally put Andy there to like see me through, and I had wobbles. I had more wobbles because at that point when I got ill, it was like, we've got to throw everything at her now.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. So, I was having, I remember I had to have breaks because I was having so much treatment.
Had it spread again?
Yeah, so the last time I had cancer, it was stage 3B.
Oh, wow.
So it's like basically just before.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go and see the big man. So it was really serious, and it basically all that means is when you talk about stages is where it's moved to. So it started at above, like, my diaphragm, and then it basically went all over. So I'd got it in my armpits, my chest, my neck, my bowel, I think. Yeah, like but below. So I got it. So it just moved to like multiple places, and basically my body was accepting it as normality.
Yeah.
And they were like, "You're going to have full body radiotherapy. You're going to have like basically level 10 chemo. You're going to lose your hair again. And then there's not just that when you're going through treatment; it's all the effects after it. So it's not just going to be this is what you're going to live with forever. But also at 17 and 14, my mum and dad made my decisions.
Yeah,
so I never really, although they considered me in it, and I never really had to think about it. But as a 21-year-old, I've got to make the decision. I'm signing things that say there's a possibility you could die. Yeah. And like reading it, it's like it's next level. Like, and you're going, okay. And there's moments I wobbled. So I remember reading a form, and it was like 20% chance of this, 10% chance of this, and all of this, and having to sign it because it's like nothing else you can do. And I thought, right, I'm going to write letters to all my family, all the people that are really important to me. And the first letters I wrote, sorry,
it's okay.
The first letters I started writing were to my niece, and I was talking about her wedding day. I've still got the letters now, but sorry, I won't go too deep into it. But I started writing letters because I was like, right, well, I wasn't scared of dying. I honestly wasn't. what I was scared of is my family not knowing me and knowing who I was. That scared me. I knew where I was going. I knew I loved I hoped where I was going. But, I was like, I need to write these letters to my family. So I started, and I wrote some letters I couldn't write.
Yeah.
I couldn't write one to my sister just because there's so much love. Not that I love my niece any less, but it's a lot. But I thought she'll remember who I am. But my niece won't. My niece was only the same age as Faith at the time. So I started writing these letters, and I remember vividly sitting on the windowsill of my room, it was horrendous. I was in this one room, the only window I had looked out on the ventilation system. So all I had was this like filter machine puffing out air. And I remember sitting there, and that's when I felt God speak to me. Wow. And God said, stop doing that.
Did he?
Vivid, so vivid. He went, you don't need to do that. And I shut my laptop and I didn't write anymore. And it was at that point I knew I was going to be all right. Because I was like, okay. And I remember it, and I'm getting really emotional writing these letters. And, I've kept them because actually I like to look back on them and see what I wrote. My advice. My advice for a child pre-marriage, pre-having your own child. I might give a little bit of different advice now. But I just vividly remember him going, put it down. And it was almost like I felt his hand shut my laptop.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, yeah.
Goodness me.
But yeah, it was... so the third time I felt God speak to me in loads of different ways. Yeah. I also met people on that ward. There was another lad who was, and I really felt God use me in this respect. So the third time I was in for a bit longer. I think it was about 2 months I was in, and I was in the same room. I was in the same room. Yeah. Oh. And I'll never forget it. I was like, Mom, is this the same room? She's like, I think it is. Something funny though. They were all about sterilisation. And I'd gone into the room, and when I was 17, they had pictures and all sorts up there. Right? There was one picture in the room, and while I was in it, some man come and took it away. Oh. And he went, yeah, you need to have a sterile environment. So literally,
you couldn't even have one picture.
No. I could bring my own though, which I didn't really understand. But took all my pictures. Wow. And I went, Mum, why are they taking all the joy? Why are they taking all my butterfly pictures? And I am a joker, and I do kind of use humour in serious situations. And it's not because they're any less serious, but I just do think laughter is just the key. Yeah.
It's great, Lauren.
I was next to a young man, and he was 24, and we meet up in the kitchen. So we were allowed in the kitchen. So you're in this ward, and you're occasionally allowed in the kitchen if your levels were high enough. And I spoke to him a few times, and we had chats about faith, life, all sorts of chats. And this girl kept coming to see him, right? And I'm like, who's this girl? The kid's coming to see you. Is that you? Is that your missus? And he's like, no, we're just friends. And I just remember going, oh, you're just friends. Do you love this girl? And he was really, really poorly. Mm. He was like, yeah, but I don't think. I said, tell her, mate. I said, tell her how you feel. Like, just do it. Because what have you got to lose? Like, if she'll still be your friend, like, just do it. And I knew that girl liked him. She was turning up at his hospital bed all the time. And he did tell her. Unfortunately, he passed away. Mm-hmm. But he was such a lovely person. And I really feel that he's with God now. Mm-hmm. But Like, and as I say, God uses you, doesn't He? And that's like a vivid memory, because sometimes when you're stuck there, the only people you've got are your nurse friends, and the people you're coming to see who are coming to see you, but they go home to bed, and sometimes you're up all night because you're poorly and you can't sleep, and I really. I think about some of those conversations sometimes of us meeting in the kitchen, and actually the girl felt the same about him. So they got to tell each other they loved each other. And I just think, like, what a blessing. Like, knowing someone loved you. And they and I know it might be hard for that girl, but I think he needed that. So sorry, off on a tangent again. Here I am. Good. But
how did the third time come to an end then? Like, so you've not had cancer since then.
No.
When did the healing come then? What was the
So as I say, I had really, really strong chemotherapy, and then I had a break over Christmas, and then after Christmas I had full body radiotherapy and a transplant from my brother this time. Wow. So I had a stem cell transplant, and trust me, Daddy's never let me forget it. So instead of having my own stem cells, because the realisation that it was my body was just accepting it, they tested my brother and sister to see whether I'm a match. They were a match, and my brother was. And he gave me stem cells, and then... I remember him walking into my hotel room. Wasn't a hotel room. My hospital room, and going, "When a hero comes along," and I'm like, of course. Yeah, you can imagine. Like, my brother. Anyone who knows my brother, literally, he was like, "Yeah, so I saved your life." And like, he'll use it to get a donut. He'll go like, "Do you remember that time I saved your life?" But I've got to keep him sweet, because if I ever need a top up, But so
it's great humour, though, isn't it?
And that's what I mean. Like, illness is just so serious. It is. It's not a pleasant thing to go through, and the two things I'm like, you need is God and humour.
That's great.
Two things you need, and my family are full of it. My friends are full of it, and it's something that gets you through. But I mean, my brother was amazing, and God bless me, the fact that he was a match, because sometimes your siblings aren't a match, your parents aren't a match, and you just have to keep going further afield. Wow. Although Andy did say I looked like my brother when I was bald, so I'm not surprised. Let's hope I'm never bald again. He gave me a stem cell transplant, so I now have my brother's DNA.
Wow.
So my immune system is my brother's immune system, and thankfully it's a really strong immune system.
Is it?
That's
so crazy, isn't it? Like, science just blows my brain.
Like, it's amazing, and I just think, like, how? How have we got to this point? And it just keeps getting better and better. And I just think, God puts the right people in the right places. I mean, I can't even... God has literally seen me through every single time. And I'm not going to say, he was more there for me when I had it. He was just as much there the first time I had it. It's not like, it's getting worse now, so God, I need you. I need you a little bit more. He's constantly there. And he probably carried me a little bit more the third time than walking beside me. But he carried me, and that's all that mattered. So... Yeah, I mean, I could go into so many other stories about it, but we've only got an hour.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah,
we wanted to also ask you if you can, and if you're happy to share. And a lot of people who are listening from Arise will be able to remember this, because it is not that long ago at all.
No.
But another story for the time we've got left. We want to talk to you about Faith, your daughter.
Yeah.
Only recently been through a testimony story of her own.
Yeah.
So would you just be able to share that, like, in a little nutshell of
so
what happened?
I mean, just a bit of a background, like that faith in herself is a miracle. Jesus absolutely blessed me with that child. And I mean, the reason she's called Faith is because of the situation we had. My eggs were saved when I was 17, so I can't have children naturally. And my eggs were saved thanks to my sister. when I was 17. So she was frozen for like 13 years as an egg. And I was told that I wouldn't be able to carry a baby. Probably not going to be a viable pregnancy. Everything went against this. And I'm not joking you, my faith throughout that whole experience, I don't know I do know where it came from, but I was just like, I'm having a baby. I'm having a baby. God's told me I'm having a baby, so I don't know how it's going to come to be, but I know that, and like even, that anyone who has been through IVF or anything, it's not a pleasant experience, but at no point did I think I wasn't going to get pregnant. I was very much like, no, I'm having a baby. Yeah, this is going to work. And even carrying it, like being told I couldn't carry it, I was like, no, I'm going to carry it all the way through. When, as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I was like, yeah, oh no, this baby's here. This baby's here today. So she's a miracle in herself. So, and my only one, God bless her. But so becoming a mum and then seeing something happen to your child is a different experience. So in last summer, Faith, I won't take you through everything, but Faith wasn't right. She kept complaining about pain and seeked a lot of medical help and getting nowhere. And to the point where we ended up going on holiday, and she just started not walking properly and just falling down, but there's nothing there for her to fall over. And like me and Andy were kind of like, this isn't right. So when we got back, the day after we got back, we went straight to the Children's Hospital, and they were absolutely phenomenal. And I just said, there's something wrong with my daughter. Just, and if I'm honest, I thought it was a broken rib. I genuinely thought that was what was wrong with her. And then when we spoke to the doctors, they were like, yeah, she needs a brain scan. And I'm like, what? Like, it's nothing to do with her brain. So kind of went in, sent out messages, can you pray for her? Because sometimes as well, you don't know how to pray. Or you don't know what to say or what to ask for. And sometimes you just need other people to do it for you. And it made me realise how hard it must have been for my parents when I was a kid, going through a really serious illness. And although this wasn't life-threatening, it was life-changing. So it turned out she had a tumour in her spinal cord. And, I mean, they were so fast, but it was a lot. It was, okay, she had an MRI and she stayed still for the hour and a half without being sedated, which they don't normally do, but they had to get it done. And you could see it as plain as day. And obviously me and lumps don't sit well. And I just remember going, why? And I just remember kind of going, God, haven't I been through enough? Not my child. Give it to me. You would take it in a heartbeat, and you really would. 100%. If I could have spoke to God and said, transfer it, I would have done it. But you kind of go into this mode of, well, I need to just look after her now. So, she was put on the emergency list for spinal surgery. And then you're just sitting there and they're talking you through all these medical things, what they're going to do to her spine and things like that. And you can't concentrate because you're like, what? What's going to happen? And going through it as a mum and not being the one who's the one in the hospital bed was probably the most difficult thing I've ever been through.
Was it?
Yeah, because I can't explain it, but again, I knew God was with us. At no point, don't get me wrong, I was like, please, why God, and not even talking to people, they're like, oh, I think you've been through enough, haven't you? And I'm like, but then your journey as a Christian isn't that you're going to be safe from everything. And yeah, I really struggled with it. But you know what? She's got a bit of a mum in her. She was absolutely amazing through the whole thing, and just really felt just supported by everybody. You know, the same experiences I had when I was poorly, I felt with her. Like people just, you know, people I haven't seen for years saying, we got you, like we're praying for it. Is there anything specific you want praying for? And just remember praying for different parts of it. And just being told this kid who's constantly doing flips and never walks anywhere is going to be bedridden for like a long time. And we were told a year that it'd take her to get back to normal. Yeah, we were said. They said, you know, it's going to be a year. I was like, no, it's not. I was like, no, this is my kid, and God's got her. Like, and do you know what? I was so confident talking to like the doctors. I was talking to like specialists that were like the specialists for the whole of the UK, and going, yeah, I know she's doing really well because God's looking after her. She's got, you know, and my daughter's head teacher is a Christian himself as well, and he'd be on these calls because obviously she needed material for her education, and I'd be there going, isn't that right, Steve? God's got, and he was like, yeah, absolutely. And but we again kept surprising at how fast like her healing came,
and it was quick,
and it was quick.
I remember as a church,
and Andy sent me a picture. Pastor Andy sent me a picture, and I remember receiving it. I was sitting next to Faith, and Faith was I was having a bad day. I wasn't having a great day, just because I was thinking about the what ifs and things of life. And sometimes when you're stuck in hospital, she was asleep, and you're just thinking over things. And I really needed someone to intervene. And at that point, Andy sent me a picture of all of you guys in church.
Wow!
And I just remember crying, going, that's what I needed.
Yeah.
And I did. I really needed it because I couldn't pray that day. I was really struggling, and I knew he was there, and it was almost like ignoring your best mate. And going, oh, no, you're there, but I'm really angry at you right now.
Yeah.
Like, I can't talk to you. And I really, really struggled that day, and that's when that picture came through, and I was like, I'm listening. I am listening. And I was just so thankful to have, like, a family that isn't earthly given. You know, it's not biological, it's spiritual. And just having people praying into the people you love and your situation is just amazing. And don't get me wrong, I am so fortunate. I'm so blessed that, you know, as when people say, oh, look at all the turmoil you've gone through, and I'm like, but I'm not, like, God's got me through everything. You know, I am very fortunate that actually my daughter's fine. You know, and I know for a lot of people, sometimes that's not the situation. I'm very aware that had we have left it, she could be paralysed now. Yeah. And it's a different situation, but I just think, God doesn't want me to dwell on that, because that hasn't happened. Yeah. Dwell on the positive of what's happened through that journey. You know, I built a lot of relationships up with other parents on the ward. You know, day in, day out, I'm watching. We were on the neurological ward because it was to do with, obviously, the brain. I'm meeting kids who are having, like, they've got tumours in their brains and all sorts, and these parents are just amazing, just looking after these kids. And these kids, they were just great. They're just like, yeah, I had a tumour. It's cool. They've got rid of, you know, I've got to have chemotherapy, and they're just so resilient. And you just think, wow, they're just so amazing. And it just kind of becomes another family as well. And talking to people where I was in the kitchen making Faith some food, because yet again she wouldn't eat the hospital food. I was like, right, let me get those crumpets. And another mum was in there, and she wasn't having a great day. And we just started talking, and I said, I just mentioned that I was a Christian. And she said, oh, I'm a Christian too. And we just started talking. And she said, oh, I've just been feeling really low lately. And I just remember going, when you're feeling low, come to me and tell me, and I'll pray for you. Wow. And we'll do the same for each other. Oh, wow. And she was like, thank you. And we went to chapel a couple of times together while the kids were asleep. And it was just like I got asked by somebody who wasn't a Christian to pray for their kid, and just going, I don't believe in God. He come to me and said, I don't believe in God, but can you pray over my daughter? I was like, absolutely, yeah. I said, but in my head I'm like, you say you don't believe in him, but sometimes you do.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
So,
how was Faith in this? Like, would she pray with you? Like, would she talk about God? Like, and Andy, of course. Like,
and Andy would pray with us
would
as well.
he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Andy, I remember the first time Andy prayed with me was when we were going for IVF. And he actually, I don't know whether he'd be okay with me telling you, but I'm going to tell you anyway. He grabbed my hand and he was like, I think we should pray about it. And I was like, yeah, we should, yeah. And we did, and he was very much, I think sometimes as well, for people who don't know what they believe or don't believe in God, there's that seeing other people and their faith. It's like it questions what it's like they really like.
Yeah.
What is it that they've got, And I think when people say like I don't believe, but then they're like asking you to pray for their child, or there's something that's in them that tells them that, and that is God telling them actually you need me. And he was really good. He was so thankful for, and if there was, I think I can't remember the different days, but there was occasions where she wasn't having a good day, or there was something that was about to happen, and he'd be like, "Oh, text your friends and see if they'll pray." And I'm like, "Yeah, I will." As I say, so he was, and Faith, I mean, she loves it. I mean, she's constantly singing worship songs. And yeah, so she sings them at school as well, and she'll come back with a belter. So, we would talk about God, and, and we'd have quite deep conversations, about, when people are poorly and, why do some people just not get better and things like that. And, it's quite heavy at times, but, thankfully she's quite clever and when she thinks about it, and there's only so much detail you go into a 6-year-old with, but she knew, and she the way kids look at it is great, because sometimes we question so much that Faith and I can't remember what we're talking about, and I was during when Faith was in hospital, we lost Andy's dad. And it was really hard because we couldn't both go and see him. And I remember sitting next to the bed, and I was getting upset, and I was trying not to get upset in front of her. And I didn't want to tell her what was going on, but then I was like, oh, God, I kind of got her. And I just said, Grandad's not very well. And she went, Mum, it's okay, because God's with him. And
oh God,
it's as simple as that, isn't it? Sometimes it's just we need to kind of look at it in this childlike essence of he's there. Don't worry, no one's ever alone. And it was just so and I just went, you're right, baby. And I stopped crying, and I was like, you're right. And I just think sometimes that we need to kind of do that. And just not overthink everything. And think, what if this in the future? What if this in the future? And just think of the here and now. And okay, I know I'm struggling, but I know you're there.
There's two really powerful stories there, and I love how you can, and I don't think you probably haven't shared them all, but how you've been the people that he's placed you around, like that, the guy from the kitchen, and the kids that you've been able to be around in those moments. I love those moments, but this is powerful, and the emotions come here because this is an Arise story, and you were talking about that photo that Andy sent. I remember when he was taking that photo, and I remember the Sunday when Faith and you came back in for the first time.
Oh wow!
And
I remember
I drew the short straw because I was hosting, and Andy said, Alannah and Faith are in, and I was like, oh man. I'd already gone, and then
I remember looking at you, and I'm
Yeah,
Don't!
I'll come on to host, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we need. And this is the point. Like in all of this line, like the praising moments that you've had of like, even though. But God, like even though this is happening, but God, and I'm gonna praise Him anyway. And I remember going up thinking like this is an opportunity for us to give thanks.
Yeah.
And then looking down and like you're on your knees with your arms in the air, and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this because like Faith's upstairs, fine. Lana's here with her arms in the air praising because he's so good. He's so good. And I remember that because like we were like this is like we've done this, but like this is God. But to come together as as like you say, like we're not an earthly family, but we're a church family. To come together and like take it to the one that we know is the only one who could have done anything with it.
Yeah.
I think he's so powerful. I'll never ever forget that moment because I didn't know you had knelt down there.
I know.
And then to look down, I was like, whoa, man, take over because this is.
Yeah.
And for the kids as well.
I remember it like it was.
Eden and Zara were buzzing when they got back.
Yeah.
Like,
I was just so thankful.
Yeah.
Like I never thought I'd be in church at that point anyway.
Yeah.
But just like I just remember God going and thank me.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
And I remember thinking I need to really thank Him. Yeah. Because this is, He's really helped me, not only in this moment, but just throughout my whole life. And just my whole life has been saturated in healing and miracles that I just need to kneel before Him and give Him thanks for everything He did. And it continues to do, because He doesn't stop. That's the point, and when we're going through, He's there when we're having joyful times and celebrating and everything's good, but He's equally there when we're on our knees and crippled by whatever situation is going on. Yeah.
What would you say? There's people listening who will be, like we said earlier, going through this, know someone who's going through it, be the one in it, all that kind of stuff. And I think there's so much stuff from this episode that you'll be able to already take, and run with. But what would you say to just to somebody who's in it or journey it with somebody? Like what would you say for them to do?
I'd say it's not always easy, and on the days where you feel like you can't do anything, just ask other people to do it for you.
It's great.
Because sometimes you haven't got the energy, and it's not that you're a bad Christian for it or anything like that. That's okay, and God knows that you're going to be angry. God knows that you're going to be sad. He can see. Remember, He sees all. He sees into the future. He knows you're going to be upset about it. And if you're having a day where you're like, I just can't, just text someone, pray for me.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Or if you're speaking to someone, say, can you pray because I can't?
Yeah.
And if someone says that to me, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, because I know that you can't do it right now. I'd say that try in the days where you can go towards what God's trying to say to you. Try and listen. As I say, going through illness and things, the footprints in the sand is just something that has vividly, repeatedly come forward to me, because sometimes I need to remember that He's carrying me, and although I don't feel like He's there, He's actually full-blown got me in His arms, whereas I think I'm on my own. He's actually holding me. So, like, look at that. And then, like, one I've got my little book, but one verse I love, and it was, oddly enough, it was mentioned at, I had a meeting at work. I work for a Christian foundation, and that somebody mentioned this verse during one of our meetings, and I was like, no way, that verse is, and I knew that we were talking about tonight, and I was like, because I need to mention it. And it's Hebrews 11:1, and it says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And I think sometimes we need to remember that it's not always something we can see, and you have to have true faith in a situation that whatever the outcome, God has got you. Because it's not always the outcome we think it's going to be. But He is constantly there, and He's constantly fighting your corner. He's never against you, ever. And I just think you need to remember that whatever you're going through. And there's going to be hard days, and there's going to be days where your faith wanes. But that's where you really need to rely on other people and kind of just say, sometimes it's just, I can't today, God, but please.
Yeah.
But just please.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So powerful. Oh, gosh.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
We could have
Lauren.
spoke for a long, long time. But thank you so much for coming online.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing the details as well and being vulnerable with us. It's really powerful.
It's been quite good actually as well, remembering. Sometimes you forget stuff. It's so easy to forget things, and when you're talking about it, things pop up and you're like, oh yeah, that happened.
Remember
and I
that.
totally forgot about that. And it's just amazing. And just remember the positives in everything. There is positives in every situation.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you are a very positive person, Alannah.
You are.
And we'd like to take a selfie with you. Is that okay?
It's our tradition.
Absolutely.
Shall I go round?
Yeah, you want to go round? Watch the wires. There's lots of wires. I'm coming over to you, Alannah. You stay there.
Oh,
that's not a selfie.
Oh.
Make and Sarah go. There you go. Lovely. Thank you so much, Lon, and thank you for having us.
Down.
That's okay. Thank you for having us. Thank you for watching as well. I'm just a little bit speechless, really, if I'm honest. I haven't really got a lot to say. But you can listen, you can watch us on YouTube, and you can watch us on Spotify. You can listen to us on Amazon Music, and you can listen to us on Audible. You can say, Alexa, and we confirm this now. We've done it. You can say, Alexa, play the Real Life Show.
Sure.
And
I haven't got the Alexa. I should have put the Alexa on.
It would have happened.
Yeah.
But also Faith would have been talking to us.
She would have dropped in.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next month.
See you.
Bye.